Hi, everyone. Welcome to Next to Media. I'm Mike Shields. I'm here with Megan Jones. She's the Chief Media Officer at Digitas. Hey, Megan. How's it going? Thanks for being here.
Hi. Great. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to talk to you because I never get the we've been talking a lot about the last few months about all these big issues in the industry, but particularly this, we in the, I guess, trade media and analyst world are obsessed with the Google trial and what it means. I don't, you often hear a lot of frustration and anger from ad tech and from publishers. I wonder if you are hung up on it and you and your clients, are you watching this with anticipation? Do you anticipate a lot of big changes in your life? Is it like life goes on right now, we can't deal with this? What is it? What is your POV?
Yeah. I think first it's the first moment where my parents actually care about what I do for a living. Because obviously,
I read about this thing.
Right. It's making headlines, which makes it kind of fun in some ways. Definitely following it and definitely following it closely. I mean, I think in my role, but also what we coach like all of the media folks at Digitas to think about is, how do we provide updates to our clients? How do we help counsel them where they need counsel? And, this is a big one, right? And this is one of those places where I think in particular, it's interesting at Digitas because we have media clients, but then we have clients that are not media clients. And so this is a headline that everyone cares about, right? And that's really important because not everyone is as familiar with the impact about the conversation, about the impact of the rulings and what might happen. I would say not freaking out about it. At this point, it's just expected, right? Every couple of months, it's a different partner that's in the headlines.
Yeah.
And it's tough because Google represents such value to our clients, right? There's so much that we do with Google across the industry, not even specifically with Publicis Group. It's all holding companies, all advertising agencies that do. And so really, I would say teasing out what matters and when it actually will matter is really important. I think we counsel clients to not overreact, to follow it closely, to think about what implications can be. And quite frankly, it's our job as folks that are able to help them navigate change to help them understand when they should react and why they should react, right?
Yeah. And the when in this case is tricky because I'm not an expert, but it seems like these things drag out and they could be repealed. So there might not be actual real change for a while.
Exactly.
I guess I wonder, like, do you have a sense of there's so many scenarios, but if there is some kind of sell-off or breakup, will that change your life and your client's life dramatically? Is it really the devil's in the details? Like, what do you anticipate there?
Yeah. I mean, I think one aspect of it is holistic integrated Google makes workflow really easy for our teams and for our clients, right? There is an aspect of that has been incredibly valuable to how we work efficiently, how we invest dollars efficiently.
That's underappreciated, I think, right? Because that feels monopolistic, but no, that actually makes your life better in a lot of ways.
Right. And considering how much conversation these days is around AI making teams work more efficiently, like in many ways, Google represents that, right?
Yeah.
And so I do think the impact there will be significant. And I think that's impact that will have potential, impact on clients, of course.
Right.
Beyond that, I mean, I think, I'm not great at fortune telling what's going to happen in the future because I kind of am somebody who's more pragmatic and likes to kind of wait and see how it's all going to play out. But sometimes when there's huge disruption, it leads to great innovation. So I could see that as an outcome too. But it's one of those things where I think I'm just closely watching. I'm counseling our teams to closely watch and sort of wait till the cards fall.
There's a similar situation going on with cookies. It's going on forever.
Yes,
and it's a weird limbo. And, I also, it's another thing we all get so hyped up about and analyzed to death. I wonder, again, it's going to depend on your clients and the level of, I guess, programmatic targeting that they do. But are your clients like sort of frozen in time and don't know what to do? Do you have to kind of move on as if they're going away tomorrow? Is it just another wait and see situation? What is that like right now?
Yeah. It's so funny because, right, like we could have been having this conversation 5 years ago and the topic would have been the same in terms of cookies because
the number of times I've written post-cookie world and it actually never happened is amazing.
I know. It's become one of the greatest jokes, I think, in a certain way in our industry. So here's what I would say. When, post-cookie world as a concept first started being discussed, the fact that there was such urgency behind it, I think put a lot of pressure in a good way behind the types of conversations we were having with clients, right? Because basically what we were trying to figure out is what was a durable identity solution going to be.
Yeah.
As it sort of, the can got kicked down the road, and in some ways, maybe there was the perception of less seriousness around it. I think the pressure kind of came off to a certain degree.
Sure.
In the clients' minds, and in some cases, I think with agencies as well. At the same time, we continued to bring thought leadership forward about what a cookieless future would look like and continue to bring solutions forward, right? And
does that mean that behavior doesn't really change? It's just talk until you can do it? Or
it had been a lot of talk for a while, but I also think, I have the benefit of being at Publicis Group, and obviously with Epsilon, that's a great solution for identity. So we were able to introduce that topic and that opportunity to clients kind of early on and take the time to educate them and coach them on what that was going to be all about, right?
Right.
When the timeline changed, I feel like the urgency changed to a certain degree. But what we've been pushing for, and I would say particularly with performance clients, which Digitas has quite a few of, is testing. How do you continue to test, learn, and move on if it doesn't work so that you're not caught off guard when the balance shifts more directly?
So that is still an important thing that's happening.
Very much so. Very much so. And that's consistently something that we're bringing up with clients. I think there's some pushing we need to do. I don't think clients' heads are all there right now with the urgency that used to be there, but it is something that we are actively pursuing.
What happened, not to get hung up on this issue, what happened? There were so many companies that built these like cookieless solutions, a whole like cottage industry. Their lives are upended. Are they out there? Are you working with those kind of companies, or do they all have to sort of hit the brakes?
I feel like we continue, like, I love hearing about new offerings, right? And I love hearing about solutions that are out there. So to us, we're entertaining conversations with lots of different partners. But again, it's sort of like test. The best way to learn is to test, right? And see if it works. And then if it doesn't work, move on to the next, right? So that sort of is the mindset that we have. I agree, though, that it was a hot thing and it has become less so. And I think there's actually been a lot of consolidation, or there's been a lot of companies that have disappeared. And partly it's because of the time that's gone on, right?
Right.
And progress in terms of data and tracking and everything else.
It's just sort of a natural thing that happens.
Yep.
Shifting gears a little bit, but along the same lines, in CTV, the idea has been for a while that it's going to be just like digital, but with all the greatness of TV. And you don't have this cookie thing to deal with, which is, I guess, a good thing. But I keep hearing that it's still challenging to get. Do we need a universal ID? Is that possible? Is there a way is every campaign and client going to have to do things differently? I know that's a lot of questions in one, but what does that look like right now in terms of bringing that to the level you want it to be?
So the brilliance to me is the world of CTV, and I'm a huge, huge content consumer.
Okay.
Is how many players there are in the space, right? And how many of them really consumers want to go to. I think that's amazing from a consumer standpoint. It does present one of the biggest challenges, right, in advertising, where how do you look for consistency across partners? How do you counsel clients on one universal way of doing things, et cetera? What I would say we've found is some of the legacy streaming partners, think the world of the world of Amazon, the world of NBCU, in some degree Disney. They understand how to offer audience first targeting capabilities and measurement. And it's because they've been in this business since the beginning, right?
Right.
And so we found that with those partners, there's some really robust ways of thinking about audiences and the way that we partner with them. I would say the newer streamers present more of a challenge. In some ways, when they enter the marketplace, we're going back to square one.
Okay.
And sort of reestablishing, okay, how do you build audiences? How do you target? How are you going to measure, et cetera? And so this idea of unification across all, I don't think is realistic. I would love to dream that it is, but for now, I don't think it is. And so for me, that does represent a challenge on behalf of clients, because obviously we're pushing clients to go where consumers are. We're pushing them to shift dollars into this medium. And so from that standpoint, it's the right place to invest dollars, but it's not it's not equipped with the same solutions that we have in the digital space.
And how much of that is, you mentioned that it's, the more experienced players have their, audience building capabilities to get together, and the new guys are learning it. But how much of it is it also that they're sort of playing the walled garden game as well? Like, is that going to be the same dynamic where Disney and whoever, Amazon, does it their own way and you've got to use their own identifier and that's life? Or is there a way to cut across all that?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I mean, I think, walled gardens to me have become just, regular day at the office kind of in the world of media.
Right.
And so, yes, in some cases, I do think that's the case. I think also as new folks enter the market, they're trying to figure out the value equation for what they have to offer. They're trying to think about how best to deliver the revenue they need and how they should partner with advertisers. And so to me, there's a degree of kind of keeping all that close to the vest. But I think like anything, I think it takes, like this happened in social, right? To a degree, it's like patience and persistence from agencies and clients to get to a solution that we're all very comfortable with that helps us be better at how we transact across these partners, as well as how we measure, because ultimately at the end of the day, that's actually to the benefit of the platforms, not just to the clients.
Right. You brought up social and made me think of this, a little bit of an aside, but how much, another thing that's looming forever, are you and your clients wondering, should we work with TikTok? Should we do anything long term? Do you have to just operate as if it's going to be there forever? What is that like right now?
Yeah, in some ways, it's a similar kind of approach that we have to TikTok as we do to Google. You can't ignore TikTok, right?
It's still there, for now. Yeah.
It's there. It's massive. It continues to grow. It continues to be, where culture is discovered. So I think for us, again, as a full service agency, TikTok plays a really interesting role to us because it's not just a media platform for us, but we actually think a lot about creators and how brands appear on that platform with some of our clients where we just do social strategy. And so we're very aware of all the conversations, again, trying to cut out the noise versus the reality. And so we keep a close eye on what's happening, but at the same time, our job is to understand it inside and out and counsel our clients how to be on it actively and effectively.
Yeah. The cultural discovery thing is a big one that you just can't ignore.
Oh, it is tremendous. I mean, I can't say I'm a huge TikTok. I'm not a huge poster. I'm a lurker.
Mm-hmm.
But
seems healthy.
Right. We have a social strategy team that all day, every day, they're spending time understanding what's happening on TikTok, truly from a cultural perspective. And that is a gold mine of data, insights, and just like cultural relevancy that, we do so much with for brands.
You kind of led me to my next question, which is, and you'll have an interesting point of view because you're part of a full service agency, but some of your clients, you have more of their business than others, I guess. Very hard probably to generalize, but where do you put the creator thing? It seems like a fascinating opportunity, but unique challenge in terms of like where to put them, how to view them, where to fund them, because they do so many different things. They are media, they are commerce, they are influencers. So do you have an answer of like where do you put those folks and how do you decide how to fund them and work with them?
Yeah. So, I don't think anyone has it perfect, to be honest. And it's exactly for the reasons you said, right? It started out as a very media first opportunity. Then we started to say, is this actually more PR? Like, where does it sit in the ecosystem?
Right.
I would say we try less to think about like who owns creator within our client's marketing org. And even I would say on our side, and more think about the role that those creators play and how to choose creators that make the most sense for the brands that we partner with, right? So you might have heard we have a product called SWOT. It stands for Shareworthy and Trending. It is literally an offering we built that allows us to understand what's happening in culture, how it's relevant to a specific brand. How do we actually find creators? Because we have a team of creators that we're partnered with that can create kind of authentic content on behalf of brands. That's because that's where people are discovering brands these days, right? And so to us, we've made big bets on that being a space that every brand needs to be active in, and making sure that we're doing in a way that feels actually first and foremost authentic to the community the brand wants to engage. So to me, it's not going anywhere. whatsoever. I think it is a critical role in what we do for brands. And I think for us as an agency, because we straddle paid, owned, and earned, it sort of sits across all aspects of that.
I want to ask you more about that, but I want to dig into the idea. So with SWOT, is it this is good. Probably it may vary by creator and talent, but like, do you have when you say you have a stable? Are they like partners for multiple brands, or are they like they're formal deals? You just go to them a lot. Like, what does that look like in practice?
Yeah. So it's two things. One is we're sourcing, the right creators that we believe are right for individual brands. We're not trying to kind of dilute the experience and the authenticity of a creator with a specific brand. This is more about we have a set of folks, in particular, we lean very heavily into DE&I because that I think is a missing space in the broader creator world. That's been something that's really important to us. And the ability to identify a trend, immediately decide if it's right for a brand that we're partnering with, and then have a stable of creators to tap into that creates content, in many cases within 24 hours, that then gets published. Like, that is necessary in today's world, right? Because if you don't jump on it in the moment will have passed.
Yeah.
So our team that focuses on SWOT, which is led by one of my favorite partners, Christina Gosweiler, like, she's worked really hard in building out what that is. It's data, it's technology, and it's people relationships, quite frankly, to produce the right content for clients.
So that's interesting, because that's like a high-speed hybrid between creative and media, I guess. But are there other instances where you're just working with giant creator or so-and-so because they're a reach play, it's more of a media buy and you just want to get a lot of eyeballs? Is it kind of run the gamut?
Yeah. I mean, I think what I would say, yes, with an asterisk to it. So, in our world, we would never say to a client, it's just about eyeballs, right? I think authenticity is probably the most important screen that needs to happen when you're thinking about what creators to select and what creators to partner with. I think as consumers, we all know when you see basically what is the NASCAR of creator, right? Where they have logos kind of associated with them all over the place. And that doesn't work. That doesn't work for the creator.
No,
it doesn't work for the brand.
Not there.
Yeah. And it certainly doesn't work for the community that they're trying to be in front of. And so for us, scale is important, but scale isn't the driver.
Right.
And so really depending on what the client needs and, quite frankly, the business outcomes that they want to deliver, like that's a very nuanced conversation that we're having.
Shifting gears again, I'm just covering off all the hot topics in the industry here. The retail media has been this huge story for a couple of years now. The money has shifted pretty dramatically. All of a sudden, there seems like there's a million of these networks. How I wonder about this. I'm sure that most brands do not work with 50 retail media networks. I could be wrong, but how do you figure that out? Do you want that? Is it hard to get to know all of them and wrangle that space? Would you like some kind of consolidation to happen? What does that look like for you?
Yeah. So it's funny. I remember about 4 years ago having the conversation with my CEO about, I think we need to jump on this retail media thing and make sure that we bring in experts that are really going to lead us in the right direction before kind of that tipping point really happened. And so we did. We hired a woman, Krista Klausner, who leads up all things media for the world of commerce. In the last year and a half, Amy Lanzi became our CEO at Digitas, which obviously comes with so much advantage in terms of understanding the landscape.
Totally.
Retail media is interesting to me because at this point in time, it's not just retailers that are in the business, right?
No, you got United Airlines and Chase.
Yeah, that's a great example. Brands are realizing that this is a revenue stream, right?
Yeah.
And that their customers or their websites are really valuable to brands in like-minded kind of categories. And so I think for us, navigating that world and thinking about what are the pure play partners in the space that really are what traditional retail media was all about versus what are the ones that, quite frankly, are the same way we used to evaluate other valuable digital properties, right?
Right. It's not on like a publisher, like a web or, so-and-so website buy.
Exactly. And so the same type of evaluation we've done for digital media for, decades is sort of the same evaluation that we're doing here. I think the difference becomes a little bit more in terms of the sophistication of the data and measurements that these partners have and what they can offer, right? and talk about walled gardens, like that's yet another.
Yeah, that seems very difficult to tie all that stuff together.
It is. And so I think it is trying to evaluate each and every component of what a partner might offer in the world of retail media. I mean, at this point, we have a retail media practice that's somewhere around 90 people. We have a lot of clients that were active in this space, both CPG clients as well as other clients that recognize the value of RMN. And so it really is just about education. It's about getting really close to the big players in the market, but still understanding sort of that long tail of other partners that exist as well, and thinking strategically about what you're trying to accomplish with a client. I mean, the biggest thing to me is understanding differentiation. What do you know about your consumers, your customers that's going to be unique and additive to the investment I'm making? And for some, it might be 3. And for some, it actually might be 20 partners that they want to partner with.
For certain categories of products.
Exactly.
I wonder how you see that evolving. Do you think there is an opportunity can someone corral all that? Is that possible? Like, there's not a lot of incentive for all those companies to, pool their data right now. But I wonder at some point, will there be pressure to do that?
I think like all things like in this industry, I think agencies and clients are going to push for consolidation, and then we'll probably end in some happy medium where there's consolidation in certain points. I mean, as part of the group, we have Epsilon Retail Media, we have Citrus. Those are 2 ways that consolidation to a certain degree happens, but that can't be the solution for everything. It simply just can't be. Right. So I think, again, we're thinking very carefully across the ecosystem. The other thing that I would say is interesting to us, and again, this is sort of that full service world that I'm lucky enough to be a part of. At Digitas, we actually work on the sell side and the buy side. So in some cases, we're making decisions about where in retail media we're actually helping clients invest their media dollars. Yeah. But in others, we're counseling clients on how to monetize their own networks or stand up. That is interesting. Networks, right? And so thinking about that means we understand what brands want from retailers, and we understand the uniqueness of what retailers or retail media networks have to offer to brands. And so kind of sitting in that intersection, I think, gives us a really unique position.
Does that, just the emergence of that space and how popular it is, does it put pressure on, I wonder if that makes judging the rest of your plans so difficult, because it looks awesome when you run an ad on Instacart and somebody buys something right away. And I'm sure clients get addicted to that and want that, but not every vehicle can work that way. Does it put pressure on everything and make it hard to grade the effectiveness of a full plan?
It's a good question. I mean, I would say, I think if brands are expecting every single instance that their brand appears to actually drive a conversion, then I think that's not understanding the way
you saw that in the early search days, like people thought everything was just going to be the same.
Exactly. And so at Digitas, we've become obsessed with this concept of the fluid funnel, right? So holding media accountable to very specific, very linear actions from consumers is not the way things operate anymore. It's very fluid. Right. There's even an aspect of, and I know I've experienced this, embarrassingly so, where I've bought something on Instagram and I don't actually know the brand that I just bought.
Oh yeah, we've all done that.
Right. And then you're like, oh, who was that? And how do I find them again? So that fluidity of how people are operating across media, across owned experiences even, and understanding that entire kind of networked experience of a brand and a consumer is really important. And so if you're looking at like, do you expect something to convert immediately? Sure, in some cases you should, right? Yeah. But broadly speaking, that's just not, I think, the way that we view the marketing ecosystem anymore.
Let me throw a wild card at you. What is what are we not talking about that you think is sort of underappreciated or under discussed in this industry, or maybe drives you crazy that we should kind of bring up to the forefront a little bit more?
I would say there are 2 things. One is I think we are missing the boat in understanding media and CRM and how the 2 need to work together.
Okay, interesting.
I think part of that has to do with the fact that marketing organizations often have different stakeholders that are overseeing those 2 components of the business. Right. But the inordinate value that first-party data, that customer data has on media, and the fact that
it's a much bigger part of it than it used to be, right?
Right. And the fact that we haven't bridged those 2 worlds and we don't think about both components as a critical part of the ecosystem that needs to be connected. The fact that we don't continue to try to woo customers after they've become customers, the same way we think about going to prospect, that to me is incredibly undervalued in the world of marketing. And I think
all right, that's a good one.
The other is, I think, creativity, right? Like in this world, I think we've started to chase data and numbers in terms of what's performing, what's converting, how do I optimize, et cetera. But I think like inspiring consumers and brands inspiring consumers, not just creators inspiring consumers.
Yeah.
I think that art has sort of disappeared from our industry. And I've been in it long enough to remember when that was the thing and media was sort of an afterthought. And now,
and we've gone a little bit too far the other way.
Yeah. And I think it's because like context matters so much now, right? Fighting for attention matters so much now. And it's not just finding the perfect spot to put the brand. It's actually thinking about what do you want to create? What's the magic you want to inspire with consumers? And I think that can happen with, a stick of deodorant, and it can happen with a movie, and it can happen with everything in between. So that creativity, I think, is somewhat missing. And, I love that I get to think about that a bit at Digitas, but I do think we could all embrace that more.
That's a good one too. Last thing for me is this just to cover off every single buzzword in the industry.
Yes. Sustainability.
You knew what I was going to say. What I can't tell. It was very hyped about a year and a half ago. A lot of attention. All of a sudden, oh my god, I can't believe how much digital advertising generates in terms of our footprint and what do we do. Is it having a serious impact? Is it hyped and then clients have pulled back? Like what's going on there?
So here's my take. I care very much about it. I think it's a thing that we're going to be talking about in earnest in, let's say, 5 years. Sort of the same way that brand safety, brand suitability took a bit of time for people to talk about. I think it's critical we think about it. And I also think there's planning that needs to happen to get to a point where actually this industry can make meaningful impact and have solutions that actually help make meaningful impact. We're not there yet. It's not top of mind with clients. It really isn't, right?
It's not easy to redo how you do everything overnight. You're in a competitive business and trying to survive.
Exactly. And so I think brands that have made sustainability a core of their business practices anyways are more open to the discussion.
Sure.
And they want us to talk about how we can narrow down, the digital footprints of some of the ways we go to market. But I don't think we're there yet in terms of it being top of mind. As a person who cares very much about this in my personal life, like I think we should continue to bring it up to clients and continue to talk about it and continue to have it be a topic in the industry we're very actively trying to find solutions for. But I just don't think we're there quite yet.
Yeah, that's not an easy one to fix overnight. And that horizon makes sense to me. Megan, awesome conversation. I know we jumped around quite a bit here, but thanks so much for your insights, and hopefully we chat again.
Yeah, great to meet you. Thank you so much for the conversation as well.